All praises to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to everyone joining us on this program. This is the Fountain of Israel Bible Studies program. And as always, it's an honor for me to stand before you on the Lord's holy Sabbath day. So we're going to jump right into it. And the title of this lesson is Distractions. Okay, it's about the great divide in Israel. Now, we just recently talked about, as we do every year, we talk about Black history from the Bible, where I teach about whom true Israel really is, about an enslaved people that went from captivity to captivity to captivity, and finally unto the shores of the Americas and the world abroad, actually. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing to have the knowledge of yourself. It's a wonderful thing to know that you had a history that went past the slave ships, that went past the East Coast of America, and as well as the other American countries. It's good to know that you had a language. It's good to know you had a culture. Good to know you had a heritage to give you that pride, to understand what the other nations feel like. Hey, I'm from Italy and my ancestors go, centuries and centuries back. And hey, I'm German and my ancestors go centuries and centuries and centuries back. And they can trace whom they are. And yet we were lost. And now we're starting to wake up. And it's a beautiful thing to walk in the way which we call the truth and find out who we are, where we're from, who our ancestors are. But you want to know what's bad? When you find out that you discovered your identity. Maybe you're one of those who came out of modern Christianity and the scales fell off your eyes and you figured out, hey, the Bible has so much more to say. It is so rich. It is indeed the living truth. And you find out that you've been lied to and you've been deceived. And you find out all these different denominations that are out there. They all have their own little doctrine, their own little spin, their own little twist. And then we come up with little sayings and, hey, there's no denominations in the Bible. And how come we have like 30,000 Christian denominations and offshoots and little splinter cells, if you will. And so I'm leaving Christianity. I'm out of here. I'm leaving the church. I don't want any part of that anymore. All this division, only to find out that there's just as much division in Israel. Camps, various communities, and the same infighting that you had in the Christian church is 10 times worse in the way. It's 10 times worse in what we call the truth today. We're not fighting so much about who's Israel and the true identity of Israel. We're not fighting about that too much. We're fighting about the sacred name. Is it Jesus? Is it Yeshua? Is it Yahweh Shai, Yehoshua, Yahuwah, Yahweh? What is it? We're talking about it's infighting between the Tanakh only and the Messianics. The New Testament is fake. Paul's a false prophet. We're fighting about, hey, Israel only salvation. Only Israel will be saved. Everyone, no one else outside Israel will be saved. And then there's a few who say that, yeah, maybe some will be saved, but they'll be in chains and slaves. We're fighting about that. We're fighting about the virgin birth. Is it really a virgin birth? Or was Christ conceived the old-fashioned natural way? Fighting. Distractions. Distractions from what we really should be doing, which is really working out our own salvation. It doesn't matter if you are Messianic or Tanakh only. We're supposed to be working out our salvation. Making sure we can get in. Making sure that we have access to this kingdom. Because the one thing that we do agree on is that the world will not continue as it is right now forever. We can agree on that. But all we have is envy and strife and backbiting and just tearing each other down. And Israel knows that all too well. That's the one thing that we can do. That's the one thing that we can get right, and that is fight and strive against each other, boast against one another. That's the one thing that we're experts in. Turn with me to James chapter 3, and I will pick it up at verse 14. James chapter 3, verse 10 reads, "But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descended not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion in every evil work." There is confusion in every evil work. I'm sure I'm not the only person who can watch some of these shows, watch a reality show and things like that, and we're looking at different little communities from other nations. And somehow, some way, they're able to put their differences aside to get the job done, to build something. Somehow. But Israel haven't mastered that yet. Israel has not figured out that if we can put our differences aside momentarily, we can actually get somewhere. And some people are just happy to be fighting. Just, it's no big deal. That's just how it is. It's part of the curse. And yet the Bible speaks against all this backbiting, envying, and striving against each other. It speaks about that. But let us continue in 1 Corinthians. Join me in 1 Corinthians. I'm just going to read one verse. Chapter 7. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 35. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 35, which reads, "And this I speak for your own profit, not that I may cast a snare upon you, but for that which is comely, and that ye may attend upon the Lord without distraction." That we can do this thing without distraction. Because that's what we have. Distraction. Sure, there's some doctrines out there that needs to be worked out. We need to come and reason together and figure some of these things out. But is that the heart and mind of most people who are running headlong into debate? Because that's what they want. They're just looking for a fight. And most of the fight is with their own brethren. But that's what some people do because of pride and because of ego. It's what they want. It's what they're looking for. Join me over in Mark. Mark chapter 4. Mark chapter 4. And I'm going to pick it up at verse 3. Let's read a little bit. Mark chapter 4, verse 3. And it says, "Hearken. Behold, there went out a sower to sow. And it came to pass as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground, where it had not much earth, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. And some among thorns, and thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. And others fell on good ground, and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased, and brought forth some 30, some 60, and some 100. And he said unto them, He has an ear, let him hear. And when he was alone, they asked, Where about him? With the 12 asked of him the parable. Now this particular parable, my wife and I were just speaking about that just the other day. We were just talking about this the other day. Continuing in verse 11. And he said unto them, Unto you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God, but unto them that are without, all these things are done in parables. That seeing they may not see, and not perceive, and hearing they may hear and not understand, lest at any time they should be converted, and their sins should be forgiven them. And he said unto them, Know ye not this parable? And how then will you know all parables? The sower soweth the word. And these are they by the wayside, where the word is sown. But when they have heard, Satan come immediately and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. And these are they likewise which are sown on stony ground, who, when they have heard the word, immediately received it with gladness, and have no root in themselves, and so endure but for a time. Afterwards, when affliction or persecution arise for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. And these are they which are sown among thorns, such as heard the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lust of other things entering in, choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. And these are they which are sown in good ground, such as hear the word, and receive it, and bring forth some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100. So we come into this truth, we get this word, we get a better understanding, and then comes confusion because someone comes running their mouth and bringing up a division, a dispute, a problem. And then we have people actually leaving the faith just because of confusion. They wanted to come out of confusion only to walk right back in to confusion. Go with me to Romans 12. Romans chapter 12. Which is also why I did a lesson before, and I was saying not to eat off too many plates. Actually, I think I did it on the Israelite Prepper channel, and it's just not to listen to too many people, because it is going to engender confusion and strife and bitterness, and people are going to walk away. 12 in Romans 12:1. I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith. And so that's one of the things that we should not speak or think so highly of ourselves, like we got it all figured out. Come, let us reason together. Not bicker and strife, and because we're still bringing a worldly approach to this thing. For some reason, we're bringing a worldly approach to this thing. We're not supposed to be conformed to this world, but yet the world has so much pressure. This is what's cool. This is what's in. This is what's out. We need to do this and just go with whatever the world likes. That's what we need to do. Right. And yet it says, be not conformed to this world, because this world won't last forever. The way it is now will not always be this way. But we have so much short-term thinking, and we're so distracted by all the things in the world. We're so distracted by all the things that are in the present, we give no thought to what's coming in the future. We're just too busy fighting and conforming to this world and using worldly tactics, worldly ideas, worldly passion, this worldly spirit, and attack one another. People are in love with this world and everything about it. Go with me to Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5. And when we get to chapter 5, I'm going to start reading it at verse 10. I have confidence in you through the Lord, that ye may be none otherwise minded, but he that troubleth you shall bear his judgment, whosoever he be. And I, brethren, if I yet preach circumcision, why do I yet suffer persecution? This is the offense of the cross, or has the offense of the cross ceased? But would they were even cut off which trouble you, for brethren, ye have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But if ye bite and devour one another, take heed that ye be not consumed one another. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lusts of the flesh. For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary to one to the other, so that you cannot do the things that you would. That all these things that we are fighting against and lusting against, all these problems, all of these, many of them, we're not recognizing that many of them are simply distractions to take you off course. If you're supposed to be in a particular course, supposed to be doing a particular thing that the Lord wants you to do, then the enemy comes in and throws a few little distractions, throw a little breadcrumb. Well, not breadcrumb, but throw a little pothole in your way, throw a little hurdle over here, and just throw a few shiny things in your face, a few trinkets, anything to distract you. And unfortunately, most of the distraction is infighting. That's what it is. It's most of us infighting. And it started right from the beginning. We've been doing it ever since we were a nation. It's been that way from the beginning. In fact, go to Genesis 37. Genesis chapter 37. When we get to chapter 37, I'm going to pick it up at verse 1. Genesis chapter 37, verse 1. And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. And these are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding a flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. See, they already hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray ye, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we are binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said unto him, Shall thou indeed reign over us, or shall thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the same. So from the very beginning, before we were even a nation, our nations were yet in our forefathers' loins, and already the backbiting, already the judgment. And it has not ceased. It hasn't stopped. So go with me to Judges, and we'll look at it a little bit more. We're going to jump around Judges a little bit, but we're going to look at it a little bit more. If you go to Judges and you follow me in chapter 20, we're going to look at Israel warring against Benjamin a little bit. And of course, later you can look at the whole story, but we're going to look at a little bit of it right here. So Judges chapter 20, and I'm going to pick it up at verse 1, and we're going to read quite a bit of it, but you can read the rest of it by yourself. But this is some infighting. This is Israel versus Benjamin, the other 11 tribe versus Benjamin. Then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was gathered together as one man from Dan even to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead, unto the Lord in Mizpah. And the chief of all the people, even of the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 footmen that drew sword. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel were gone up to Mizpah. Then said to the children of Israel, tell us, how was this wickedness? Like, what happened? And the Levite, the husband of the woman that was slain, answered and said, I came into Gibeah that belonged to Benjamin, I and my concubine, to lodge. And the men of Gibeah rose against me and beset the house round about upon me by night, and thought to have slain me. And my concubine have they forced that she is dead. So Benjamin, they go and they robbed her, killed her. And I took my concubine and cut her in pieces and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Yes, they did. Behold, ye are all children of Israel. Give here your advice and counsel. And look at what they said. And all the people rose as one man, saying, we will not any of us go to our tent, neither will we any of us turn into his house. But now this shall be the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up by lot against it, and we will take 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000 to fetch victual for the people, that they may do when they come to Gibeah at Benjamin, according to all the folly that they have wrought in Israel. So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. And the tribe of Israel went through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what wickedness is this that is done among you? Now, therefore, deliver us the men, the children of Belial, which are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and to put away evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not hearken to the voice of their brethren, the children of Israel. But the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities into Gibeah to go out to battle against the children of Israel. And the children of Benjamin were numbered at that time out of the cities 26,000 men that drew sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, which were numbered 700 chosen men. Among all the people there were 700 chosen men left-handed. Every one could sling stones at a hair's breadth and not miss. And the men of Israel, beside Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men that drew sword. All these were men of war. And the children of Israel arose and went up to the house of God and asked counsel of God and said, which of us shall go up first to the battle against the children of Benjamin? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up first. And the children of Israel rose up in the morning and encamped against Gibeah. And the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin, and the men of Israel put themselves in battle array to fight against them at Gibeah. And the children of Benjamin came forth out of Gibeah and destroyed down the ground of the Israelites that day, 22,000 men. And so you can read the rest of it, and Benjamin goes back and forth, and they win part of the war, and Israel wins part of the war, and Benjamin's almost wiped out in other places, but it's fight after fight after fight after fight. And we're doing it today. And we're doing it today because ultimately Benjamin suffers a great defeat. If we read later in the chapter. And if we go down to like 46, it says, so that all which fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men that drew the sword. All these were men of valor. But 600 men turned and fled to the wilderness unto the rock Rimmon, and abode in the rock Rimmon 4 months. And the men of Israel turned again upon the children of Benjamin and smote them with the edge of the sword, as well as men of every city, as the beasts, all that came to hand. Also they set on fire all the cities that they came to. This is the men of Israel really trying to exterminate their brother Benjamin. They did commit a travesty, but I'm just saying that infighting, it's just been infighting after infighting after infighting. We're still in Judges, but go to chapter 12 in Judges. Go to chapter 12 in Judges. And when I get to 12, I'm just going to read the first 6 verses in chapter 12 of Judges. Verse 1, it says, and the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and went northward and said unto Jephthah, wherefore passest thou over the fight against the children of Ammon, and didst not cast us to go with thee? We will burn thy house upon thee with fire. And Jephthah said unto them, I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon. And when I called ye, ye delivered me not out of their hands. And when I saw that ye delivered me not, I put my life in my own hands and passed over against the children of Ammon. And the Lord delivered them into my hand. Wherefore then are ye come up unto me this day to fight against me? So he says, so when I called you, you did not come to help me, because he's talking about Ephraim. He said, you didn't come to help me when I called you. No one showed up. So I just went ahead and did it myself. And so now you're up here wanting to fight me because I didn't call you to help me fight. Okay. Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim. And the men of Gilead smote Ephraim, because they said, ye Gileadites are fugitives of Ephraim among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites. And the Gileadites took the passages of Jordan before the Ephraimites, and it was so. So when those Ephraimites which were escaped said, let me go over, that the men of Gilead said unto him, art thou an Ephraimite? And if he said, nay, this is the test they wanted to do. Then said they unto him, say now, Shibboleth. And he said, Sibboleth, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passages of Jordan, and there fell at the time of the Ephraimites 42,000. So 42,000 people died. Okay. And the test was to say something a certain way. Sibboleth or Shibboleth, right? But that's just like the sacred name today. You can teach a whole lesson. The lesson can be true. It can be scriptural. It can be all that until you say the wrong name. Until you say Jesus, or you say Yahweh. Oh, no. It's not Yahweh. Okay, Yeshua. No. It's not Yeshua. It's Yahweh Shai. It can be scriptural. You can call it right down the line. You can have the interpretation. You can have all your resources. You can get this thing right. But you said the wrong name. That's not the name, brother. That's not it. I got everything else right, and then I got the name wrong, and so that makes the lesson null and void. To some people who hold true to that particular doctrine, yeah, doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't matter whether you keep Torah or not. Don't say the wrong name. It's all null and void. Let's fight about that. What about keeping the commandments? How about, hey, you don't bother my wife, I don't bother yours. Let's not, steal from each other. Let's not do harm to one another and all that. What Torah says. No. Got to get that name right first. We can find anything to fight about. Anything. Division started early and often. Let's go over to 2 Samuel. We're going to look at 2 Samuel a little bit. Right after Ruth. 2 Samuel. And I want to pick it up at chapter 3. We're going to jump around a little bit. Chapter 3. And I'm just going to look at one verse in chapter 3. So, 2 Samuel chapter 3. Oh, I'm in 1 Samuel. Let me go to 2. Second Samuel 3 and 1. Now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David waxed stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker. So now we see that the kingdom, all the nations, is about to go towards David, because we know the Most High chose David to be his new king, because Saul was just wicked, and he was didn't want to take responsibility for his actions, did not follow what the Most High wanted him to do. And so we see the kingdom is going to go over to David. But things didn't, it just didn't stay solid. But let's look at that transition where he's going to reunite it. 2 Samuel, go to chapter 5. Just go up to chapter 5, and we're going to look at it, how it gets united. Chapter 5, I'm going to pick it up at 1. Okay? And it said, Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron, and spake, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh. Also in time past, when Saul was king over us, thou was he that led us out of the and brought us into Israel. And the Lord said to thee, Thou shalt feed my people Israel, and thou shalt be a captain over Israel. The of Israel came to the king of Hebron, and King David made a league with them in Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. In Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years over all Israel and Judah. Okay, so that's when the kingdom was united, finally united. And then start to break up a little bit. That's when it was all united. But let's go a few chapters later. You're in 2 Samuel, you go to chapter 20. Pride, treachery, evil, egos, all that is afoot. Chapter 20. I'm just going to read the first two verses. First two verses, chapter 20, 2 Samuel, which reads, And there happened to be there a man in Belial, whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjamite. And he blew a trumpet and said, We have no part in David, neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse, every man to his tents, O Israel. So every man of Israel went up from after David and followed Sheba, the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah clave unto their king from Jordan even to Jerusalem. So we already have a little bit of a dissension right there. We have dissension. So right from the beginning, and it just continued on and on. It's just not, it doesn't seem to, it's just not going to stop. And then we know David has the kingdom for when he reigned for the 40 years. And then the Lord said that, even his son Solomon is going to reign and have all 12 tribes. But we see a little dissension right here. And have all the 12 tribes. And then after Solomon, things was going to change. After that. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so we saw that Sheba, wanted to take Benjamin and rebel against David. Okay, so now we're going to go way past that, and we're going to get right to the end of Solomon's reign. Okay, go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings chapter 11. 1 Kings chapter 11. 1 Kings chapter 11, and when I get to chapter 11, I'm going to pick it up at verse 26. I'm going to look at Jeroboam. And Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephratite of Zeredah, Solomon's servant, whose mother name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Milo and repaired the breaches of the city of David, his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing a young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. So we're taking a look at this here. In verse 29, and it came to pass that at the time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shilamite found him in the way, and he said, and he had clad himself with a new garment, that the two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, Take thee 10 pieces, for thus said the Lord, the God of Israel, Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and I give 10 tribes unto thee. But he shall have one tribe for my servant's David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. Because they because that they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and Chemoth, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in my eyes, and to keep my statutes and judgments, as did David, his father. Albeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David, my servant's sake, whom I chose because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and I will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto his son will I give 1 tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen me to put my name there. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desired, and shalt be king over Israel. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all I command thee, and will walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David. And I will give Israel unto thee. And I will be for this effect the seed of David, but not forever. And unfortunately, in verse 40, Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, into Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. So that's what it's all about. It's about that we're just fighting over and over and over. Now, of course, some of these fights are with cause. Don't get me wrong. And some of our fights are simply petty. Many of our fights today are simply petty. Where we give each other a bad name and, oh, this brother, this and that, and then it gets personal. And it's embarrassing. Never will the other nations look at us as a nation, look at us as a people, and say, surely this is a wise and understanding people. Not now. We have to wait until the Messiah comes, and that depends on who you're talking about. I mean, our Tanakh only brothers until David come back. Our Messianics until Christ returns. So in the meantime, let's just fight and embarrass ourselves and just be crabs in a bucket. Keep each other's down. Can't support one another. But we can fight though. We can fight. We can debate. We can run each other down. We're good at that. Do we not see that that's just our nature? If we can just do that without effort, we can slander and backbite each other without effort, not even thinking about it. But when it comes to building together, hey, let's build something together. Let's pull together and build something. How about we just support each other's businesses? Anything like that? No, can't do that. Can't do that. It's too much. Let's continue. We're going to finish this whole king thing. We're first king. I want to go chapter 12. I'm just going to pick it up at verse 16. This is just north versus south. 16. 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 16. It says, so when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, what portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance of the son of Jesse to your tent, O Israel. Now see to thy own house, David. So Israel departed unto their tents. And watch this. But as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. So you have a split already. 18. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the tribute, and all Israel stoned him with stones, that he died. Therefore King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariots to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day. And unto this day. No different. No different, brothers and sisters. Because this right here, this is what we're good at. This is what we're great at. Nobody even has to teach us how to do that. This is what we're great at. And proud of it. Contention, strife, envy. This is what we're good at. It's perfect. Go with me over to Proverbs 22. Proverbs 22. Let's get a little bit more of this. Proverbs chapter 22. I just want one verse. This we know. In verse 10, what we do? Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. See, there's a negative person, a scorner. Best thing to do, get rid of them. And if you do get rid of a scorner, look at what happens. Contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. You get rid of that person, and those things will go right along with them. But this we're expert of. We're still in Proverbs. Go to chapter 18. Go to chapter 18. Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 6. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth called for strokes. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. Your mouth gets you in trouble. Old school saying, don't let your mouth write a check your body can't cash. But this is what's going on in Israel when we fight each other. Some people want to fight. That's all they want to do. They go to sleep with their fist balled up. That's all they want. Strife and contention, upset, mad. Looking for a fight. I go to social media or something, you can put the most innocent posts, and everyone's not even recognizing their own little pet dog. They will not get out of their own way. So I do little social experiments, and I put a little question up there. It's not a trap question, not a trick question. It's a very open-ended question. I'll even tell you the question. I said, throughout the entire Bible, what are the 3 most important teachings or doctrines or things in the Bible for all of us to know? The 3 most important things. Somebody right out of nowhere, New Testament is trash. That's very telling, is it not? Strife and contention. That was it. From a very open-ended, non-trick question. And that's all they said. Oh, New Testament's trash. That's it. And that's just an example of many responses. Proverbs chapter 13. Proverbs chapter 13. Chapter 13. I'm going to jump around a little bit. I want to read verse 3. Which says, he that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that open wide his lips shall have destruction. Because many of us don't get this. This doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. Verse 5. A righteous man hateth lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and cometh to shame. Because he keeps running his mouth and he wants nothing but trouble. He causes it. That's all he wants. I'm dropping down to verse 10. Only by pride cometh contention, but with the well advised is wisdom. A lot of this is happening because of pride, brethren. Because of pride, they want contention. Because of pride, they want to be recognized as somebody who can really get into this scripture. We're going to go, you know what, we're going to go one more place. I want to go to Proverbs, and then I'm going to go to Psalm. Go back to Proverbs 20. I must have missed one there. Proverbs 20, I'm just going to read verse 3. It is an honor for a man to cease from what? Strife. It's an honor for a man to cease from strife. But every fool will be meddling. It's an honor to just all this fighting. At some point, say, you know what are we fighting for? What are we fighting for? Now, we're going to go to Psalms. I want to go to the Psalms. And I want Psalms 80, actually. Psalm 80. Psalm 80. Okay. Psalm 80, and I'm going to read one verse. Watch this. Thou makest us a strife unto our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves. They are laughing at us. The other nations laugh at us because of all of our infighting, because of the things that we do. You understand that? You do you get that? Thou makest us a strife among our neighbors, that's with each other, and our enemies laugh among themselves. Does that not say exactly what's going on in Israel right now? That's exactly what it is. They're not going to ever look at us and be like, you know what? I want to be like those guys. Those guys got the right God. Those guys got their act together. So they're all just going to laugh at us. That's all that's going to happen. You know, another thing, I'm going to go ahead, let's see if I have it. I think I have it right here. And this is for the brothers who maybe they like the Apocrypha. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so if we go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 25, watch this. Ecclesiasticus chapter 25. Okay. And I'm going to read one. Actually, I'm just going to read one verse. Ecclesiastes chapter 25. Watch this. It says, in three things I was beautified and stood up beautiful both before God and men. The unity of brethren, the love of neighbors, a man and a wife that agree together. Interesting. Interesting. This is talking about like unity. This is talking about unity, but we can't get that right. We can't seem to agree on that. We can't seem to get it right. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Fighting, bickering, strife. And our enemy simply laughs at us. You want to know how we should be acting amongst each other? One thing that we can agree on, okay? One thing that whether you read the Apocrypha or you don't, whether you're Messianic or you're Tanakh only, we can agree on Leviticus 19. So join me in Leviticus 19. We should be able to agree on that. We should. We should be able to agree on this. This is how we're supposed to deal with one another. Okay? Leviticus 19, this is how we're supposed to deal with one another. Okay? And let's see what we can take out of it. Leviticus 19, I'm going to start at verse 9. And when ye reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not wholly reap the corners of thy field, neither shalt thou gather the gleanings of thy harvest. You're supposed to leave some for the poor. And thou shalt not glean thy vineyards, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and stranger. I am the Lord your God. Oh, that sounds like something nice, right? So if a homeless person is passing by your vineyard, your land, your garden, it's okay for them to get a little bit off the edges and keep walking. How are we supposed to be treating each other? Verse 11. Ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another. And ye shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. You're not going to swear, oh, I swear to God, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You're not, no, you're not going to do that and not actually keep that vow, not actually do what you said you're going to do. And you shall not profane his name, which you're not going to act like, you're not going to just say you believe in the Most High and you're not going to act like it. That's profaning his name. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. That's because, okay, in this time, if someone works for you, you are supposed to pay them that day. A day's work, a day's wage. You're supposed to pay him that day. That's just how we're supposed to treat each other. Thou shalt not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shall fear thy God. I am the Lord. What else? Ye shall do not unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. You're going to be fair. You're going to be fair about this. Verse 16, thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am the Lord. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt not in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. So whether you support the Apocrypha or you don't, whether you're Messianic, whether you're Tanakh only, we should all be able to agree on Torah. Amen? Mm-hmm. We should. We should. Somehow, some way, we're supposed to be able to come together and agree. Go to Amos. See, that's still Old Testament. Okay? Let's go to Amos, which is right after Joel. Or Joel. Go to Amos 3 and 3. Chapter 3 and 3. I'm just going to read that one verse, but it says Amos 3 and 3. And it says, can two walk together except they be agreed? What can we agree on today, O Israel? What can we do? Where is that common ground? Come, let us reason together. Where is that common ground? What can we do? I'm talking to O ye Israel. That's what I'm talking about. What can we come together and do? It's all divided. I don't care if you're Old Testament. I don't care if you go into the Apocrypha or not. I don't care if you're Messianic. We're supposed to not be so divided on everything. We can find no common ground. Even in the Messianics, let's go there. Even if you're Messianic, there's a problem there. There's a problem there. We find an issue there. Go to Corinthians, 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians, I'm in chapter 1. Okay, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 1. I'm going to pick it up at verse 10. Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that ye all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. For it had been declared unto me of you, my brethren, by them which are of the house of Chloe, that there are contentions among you. Now this I say, that every one of you said, I am of Paul, and I of Apollos, and I of Cephas, and I of Christ. He asked the question, is Christ divided? Is Christ divided? Was Paul circumcised for you? Or were you baptized in the name of Paul? Good question. But we got a lot of people, and even in the Messianic movement, some of them lean a little too hard on Paul, or some people bang against Paul. Especially those in modern Christianity. You say something about that, then they want to, oh, well, Paul said, basically. Drop down to verse 19. He says, for it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and I will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Those who are proud and think they have it all figured out. You can't talk to them. You can't reason with them. They can't be told anything, and all they want to do is fight, 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 fight. Have a debate, have a quarrel with someone. Then they get mad, take it personal, and start slandering each other and become talebearers. Because they want the esteem of people. They want the esteem of the people. Look at me, I'm important. Look how important I am. Look how much I know. And they want to get a lot of people rallied behind them. They're not trying to feed the flock. All this backbiting and this fighting and this contention and this strife, they're feeding their ego. And it's not exclusive to the males either. Even some of the sisters, they just want to feed their massive ego. Because they happen to be so proud that they know a little bit of scripture. They have to be so proud. And that same hate and contention and strife that's out there on the men, that same spirit is on the sisters too. I've seen it. Go to Titus chapter 3. Titus chapter 3, which is after the Timothys. Titus chapter 3, and all I need is just one verse, which read, but avoid foolish questions and genealogies and contentions and strivings about the law, for they are unprofitable and vain. All this fighting over and over and over. And don't get me wrong, I've been in debates. Because there's some good debates and there's some bad debates. There's people who've been wanting to debate me, and I don't say yes to all debates. Because if it's pointless, I'm not going to just say yes to all debates just because I want to debate, just because I want to beat this guy, da da da. There's one guy I was on the phone, we're trying to do this whole preliminary debate thing, and he was trying to find something for us to debate about, because for the most part we agree on pretty much everything. And he was just grasping at straws. Oh, man, well, no, it's got to be something. It's got to be, just because he wants to debate. Then what was the point? I asked him his doctrine. He asked me my doctrine. We pretty much agreed on just about everything. But he just wanted a debate. And yes, I've had debates. You know how many people I called out? 0. And yet, here we go. Let's go to our last place, Philippians. Go with me to Philippians. Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Perfect place to finish this off. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. That's what we need to think about, brothers and sisters. Think on these things. Where is the common ground? Come, let us reason together. Why must we fight over everything? We fight over everything. Young earth, old earth, flat earth, sacred name, Old Testament, Paul's a false prophet, New Testament is no good. We fight over everything. who's the Messiah, virgin birth, you name it. And that's what my heart goes out. That's why I get upset, because I have some of these brothers and sisters who are waking up. And the first thing they run into is confusion and contention. The heart pride comes up in their heart, and they're like, I found it. I found the truth of the scripture. I knew something was wrong. I knew something was amiss. And now the Bible makes so much sense to me. And they're wide-eyed. And they're excited. They got the truth. And if they're not Israel, then they're just excited that they have the truth. And they're just like, oh my goodness, all right, the God of Israel, I want to serve the God of Israel. And if they are bloodline Israel, they're like, oh, I have an identity, I have a history, I have a culture, I have a language. Oh, yes. And then they start listening to these groups and start looking at Facebook and looking at YouTube, looking at all these different lessons, and they eat off this plate, eat off that plate, and come out the other side more confused. Because when you first go in, you think everyone believes the same thing. Nope. On the contrary. On the contrary, we don't. Unfortunately. And yes, I understand and I know that it'll all be straightened out in the end. I know. But it's a sad, hard, and long road until we get there. Most of this stuff, most of these things that we're talking about, most of them are simply distractions. To get you and I off course. To get us to focus on other things. To get us to never come together. Because together you're stronger. You can get more done. But not as long as we're distracted. Not as long as we are bickering and backbiting. As long as we are proud and haughty and we don't want to humble ourselves. We got to be better than the next guy. We got to be better than the next community. We got to be better than the next camp. We got to be better than the next person. We're worried about grabbing this Bible. Oh, I got my sword. And the scripture's going to cut you. And the word's going to cut you because that's their MO. That's their mission. That's what they want. I hope someone has been edified by this lesson. I hope it sinks down deep and gets on the inside, and we would actually allow ourselves to kind of meditate on what we just read. Pray for you and yours. Hope you've been edified. Until next time. Search the scriptures and prove all things. Shalom, Israel.